Going on, everyone? Welcome to the sixth-round post-fight show for UFC 208. This is Zane Simon, joined by Eddie Mercado. Both of us here from BloodyElbow.com, here to break down and give you all the results and analysis after a UFC pay-per-view card that very few people were looking forward to much going in, and I don't feel like a lot of people are going to be feeling really awesome about it coming back out of it. A lot of canceled fights. And
especially those who paid for it on pay-per-view. This was not a pay-per-view card.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like it's hard to say it's just not a pay-per-view card, considering you got Jacare, you got Anderson Silva, you got Holm, you got Glover Teixeira, you got Poirier Miller. Like, these are all stars for the UFC in one way or another. But the fights they were in, Poirier Miller was the one fight that made a lot of sense. All the other ones, it just didn't seem like anybody had none of the A sides had any real fire for it. You didn't get the feeling Anderson Silva's sitting out there like, man, I can't wait to fight Derek Brunson. That dude is fire. Or Glover Teixeira being like, man, I'm going to fight Cannonier. Yeah, I can't wait for this fight.
Or even Jacare spoke about Boetsch.
It's like, exactly. And without that passion from the fighters, it's really hard. It's easy to project that back out into the fans. It's like, I'm not even hearing any of the fighters really hyped about this. It is going to be like, why should I be hyped about this? And then, you have one finish on the whole card, and it was the finish that anyone with half a brain could have seen coming from a mile away. So that...
Yeah, and I mean, that was the turn. Right from the get-go, it was just grinding after grind fest after grind fest. Even bouts that we thought weren't going to be, grinding, like Bilal Muhammad, Randy Brown. I didn't expect any grappling to be going on in that one. So,
yeah, there was a lot of fighters had and I mean, that's kind of the thing when you stick a lot of like weird mismatches too in a card. Is that a lot of guys get holes exposed that you don't expect. And I mean, Randy Brown, obviously his fight with Bilal Muhammad, he was a favorite. You can't call that a mismatch. But he's another one of these looking for a fight kids that got brought in really early into his career and has a ton of holes in his game to fill. And they, you put him in a bunch of UFC fights and those become more and more obvious as time goes on. So this ended up being a really just a weird card. We'll start out at the top. First of all, Holm, Jermaine de Randamie. The narrative there is obviously the ref not taking a point from Jermaine de Randamie for two late punches after the bell, both of which hurt Holm, and which would have resulted in a draw across the boards. Do you feel like that was as big a deal as a lot of people did? I mean, did you feel like there should have been a point taken, or were you just sitting there being like, yeah, whatever?
You know what? I honestly don't know if that's a rule or not. Can the referee take a point away for that? Is that actually a foul?
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure you could get disqualified for it.
Referees have a lot of leeway about when they can take points. That's the thing, is that referees are basically, like, the rules in MMA are guidelines, and referees are more or less given carte blanche as to how to apply those rules. So I don't see any reason that you couldn't just say that Jermaine de Randamie gets a point taken for failing to obey the referee's instructions. I mean, that's a rule.
You know what? To be honest, though, I think, considering it was a title fight, I honestly believe the referee was the most nervous person in that octagon.
Yeah, he did not look like he knew when to do what in there. A lot of, like, every time that anybody was clinching up, anytime that anything was slowing down at all, he was just ready to step in. Like, do I separate him now? Do I now? Maybe?
He even stepped in a little bit too soon there. I think it was the fifth round. He got between them. Like, Holm's like literally behind him. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like,
Yeah, partially you can blame, a lot of people saying New York doesn't get a lot of MMA. Obviously, they didn't get any before the last 20 years, so they're not used to having any big fights. They don't have the right trained officials and all that. But MMA is also just such a culture of, like, there are no actual fouls. We will never punish anyone for anything. So part of me is like, oh, this never would have happened in Nevada, and then it's like, nah, this totally could have happened in Nevada too. Like,
and I think the thing was with the second incident, I don't think she really connected on it. So that might have been why the referee didn't take the point or at least do something. I mean, but what else can he do besides take a point? Like,
yeah, he warned her,
like again? Like, oh, this is your second warning 3 times now, and
yeah, I don't know. It's weird for me too because partially too watching that, it's like Randamie has her hands cocked as the bell is ringing, and she's punching as the bell is ringing, and then she lands after the bell. It's kind of like, well, that's also like, it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's not like she, once the bell rung and the ref was already there, and then she like stepped around to try and throw another shot still. But it is definitely like the bell was ringing and the ref was there, and she still threw the shot as the bell was ringing. And I wouldn't have minded getting the draw, but I'm still glad that we get the heat out of in the featherweight division at least. Like, the controversy is not a bad thing for that division because that's the fight that nobody cared about.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'd rather see Cyborg versus Randamie than Cyborg versus Holm.
Yeah, it might be.
I think that'd be more exciting. Of just a barn burner. I think they'll just stand there and trade.
I think anybody Cyborg fights is going to be a barn burner, mostly in the I got lit on fire. Somebody poured gasoline on me and lit me on fire kind of. More like more of a person burning than a barn burning, and Cyborg the one with all the matches and the gas.
But at least the Randamie stands a better chance than a Leslie Smith does,
Well,
like,
sure, yeah.
The Randamie, every single thing she landed was hurting Holm. Like, everything. She's got some sting to her strikes.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Holm runs in face first with the same timing every time. So
making the same sounds, sounding off with,
ha ha, yeah
every time.
Every time. Anyway, the fight, I will say this. I thought the fight was going to be like a really slow simmer for all 5 rounds. It was better than that. They at least, they both hurt each other. They got it going. Holm actually adjusted a little late, and Randamie faded a little late, and Holm started to figure out how to tie her up better and how to time her offense and get a little dirtier inside and make this fight interesting. But it wasn't enough to win it ultimately. And Randamie is now the featherweight champ, and I think we're just waiting. I don't know. We'll see, because Dana White said that he's hearing good things about Cyborg getting a pass on that drug test failure.
Yeah.
But he was hearing good things about John Jones getting a pass too, and we all know how that turned out.
True, but where does Holm go from here? That's 3 straight losses. That's tough.
Yeah, I think she may not head back to. She's at least got the luxury that featherweight is a new division, and so if they're going to start trying to sign people to fill it up, she's going to have fights.
Yeah,
but it's interesting because 3 straight losses, but she's also one of the few proven earners, or even not even proven, but just somebody who has sold a few pay-per-views at all for women's fighters in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of those were title fights, so.
Yeah, but there's nobody else in that division now with Tate gone that has any proven track record of selling anything to anyone.
I think her and Ronda is an interesting fight now.
Yeah, it's true. You could remake Ronda versus Holm too.
I would watch it. I'm interested.
I would watch it too. I would watch the hell out of it. All right, so that now our co-main event: Anderson Silva, Derek Brunson. I thought Derek Brunson won. I can't say I thought Derek Brunson clearly won the first 2 rounds, because I almost scored round 1 for Anderson before finally rewatching some of the flurries that Brunson landed in the clinch and being like, nah, Anderson got lit up inside.
Well, I did score it for Anderson the first round, just off of damage. I felt like he was landing the better counters. And within 2 minutes, Brunson had that, oh shit, I'm fighting Anderson Silva look. You know what I mean? And he just he got on his P's and Q's and was, he was well mannered at that point. There was no crazy rushing in.
Brunson definitely was starstruck in there.
Yeah. I think he gave it away on the damage. I think he and he did land the flurry in the clinch, which, was tough to watch because Anderson used to be the man in the clinch. That was his area. And now it's like you're getting pieced up by Brunson in the clinch.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of that is that you can still see all the technique. Like Anderson still has all these like savvy little things he knows how to do, and all of that. But the timing is slower, and the durability is different, and he's just, the physical side of it isn't there. He's not the same powerful fighter to go with that technique. It's just it really shows that at some point, it's like, oh, technique always beats speed and power and all that. Like, it's like, nah, there's a point of diminishing returns. I scored it for Brunson, but at the same time, and I thought that the scoring feels dirty to me. It does. Like, it feels, Anderson Silva winning feels like a dirty score, but the fight was so clowny and bad that I can't really get invested in it,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's too. You can't be like, oh, Brunson got robbed. Like, no, Brunson didn't do enough to win the fight.
Like, if Brunson won that fight, I wouldn't now be like, oh yeah, Brunson, I can't wait to see him fight anybody in the top 10.
And that's sad too, because this is the state of the middleweight division.
Yeah.
These are top 10 guys that were like number 7 and number 8, right? So
yeah.
They don't even
Dan
move.
Kelly about to make that run. Dan Kelly's the sleeper hit.
Hey, I wouldn't be surprised. Middleweight.
A win over Rashad, a win over a very beatable Rashad, and Dan Kelly's like top 5 material.
Hey, it could happen. I wouldn't be surprised. That guy's the personification of the odds beater.
So is there any fight you want to see Anderson Silva in right now?
I think he should go for just money fights, any big fights. GSP intrigues me. That they've been talking about that forever. I would finally like to see it, but definitely not anybody in the top 5, please. But I would probably give him Gastelum and Belfort winner.
Really?
Okay.
Gastelum's got like an 80% chance of winning that fight, and
true,
you want to see Kelvin Gastelum take on Anderson Silva?
It would at least get Anderson out of the top 10.
I'd rather see him fight Rashad, win or lose.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Anybody that's past their prime.
Yeah.
Okay. No more young guns, though, because it's going to end badly. I don't want to see that.
It's true. All right, that brings us to Jacare Souza, Tim Boetsch, and I saw a lot of people in my timeline picking Tim Boetsch for the upset. Did you have anything on Tim Boetsch for that one?
Nah, I didn't. Just it sounded good and like it was romantic, but that was about it. I mean, any kind of logic says that he was getting submitted early, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I was on Cannonier, but I couldn't make myself pull the trigger on Boetsch.
I like Boetsch though, man. I've always been a fan of his. He's just. This might have been his last chance of actually potentially getting anywhere remotely close to a title shot.
I don't think I mean, even if he had beat Jacare, the idea of Tim Boetsch title contender has zero, that's not what I want to see Tim Boetsch do. I don't want to see him fight for a belt. I want to see him fight Dan Kelly. Dan Kelly versus Tim Boetsch is my dream fight. Like, 2 dad bod dudes just looking like they've had too many drinks at a softball game and mixing it up.
It would probably get fight of the year. It would be a classic, instant classic.
It would. Hopefully, Jacare can get himself a title shot after Romero versus Bisping, if that happens even. But it's I would feel for Jacare if Bisping beats Romero, because Bisping, the first thing he's gonna do is not want to fight Jacare.
The first thing he's gonna do is not beat Romero, but go ahead.
I know. But hopefully, for Jacare's sake, hopefully Romero wins, because I think that Romero would fight Jacare.
Yeah, I think. Man, I don't know. I don't know how Bisping's the champion in the middleweight division right now. I'm still boggled by that.
It's still weird every time I have to write it. All right, not to get too caught up on that. So let's go to Glover Teixeira versus Jared Cannonier. I I was willing to take a flyer that Cannonier would beat Glover at the end of the second round. He almost did. I almost felt like a genius. He hurt him. But, man, Cannonier's wrestling is so bad. I knew it was bad, but I figured his, like, dynamic, in and out, sort of stick and move style would be good enough to keep Glover from just tracking him down on those old man single legs he does. But Glover just, every time he got one, he just kind of like touched the single leg, and Cannonier was suddenly like, whoa, shit.
He like did the old man hobble to the single leg. Dude, it was the saddest thing. Glover looked so sad on his feet. He looked slow and just a step behind. And if Cannonier wasn't so bad at defending the takedown, that it would have ended badly for Glover, I think. You know,
Yeah.
he was getting tagged pretty good. And I think he even got hit when he was smiling there in the first. Like, he got tagged and, you know, it was like, oh, shit, he got a good one in. And then, like, two more came, and he was like, oh, shit. And then, like, he smiled again and did a little mini stanky leg, and I think that was the end of the round. But it was a good fight, though. Well, kind of. I think Glover kind of took a little soul from it when he did take it down. But
it was the fight a savvy veteran Glover Teixeira needed to fight to win. He wants to still be top 5. He wants to still get big fights, and the only way he does that is by not playing around with Jared Cannonier in stand-up battle.
Yeah, but Cannonier's stock went up more than Glover's did in this one, I think.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody in near the top 5 is going to be a way worse wrestler than Glover, so...
But I just mean in terms of wanting to see him again.
Yeah.
Like, he's fun, and that's what that division needs is someone who's willing to come in there and just trade with people.
Yeah, they do need Glover, or they do need Cannonier. They need him to go to a bigger camp, work on his wrestling, because that's one of the things, you know, he was talking about, like, oh, I can get everything I need in a small camp. I'm going to make this camp great and make it stellar. But one of the things that you see from small camps is that, like, if there's a hole there, like wrestling, that's not getting fixed there. Like, you actually have to go somewhere that really makes good wrestlers. You know?
Or pay a boatload to ship someone into you.
Yeah.
And do it that way, which probably isn't happening. But another thing is he's still working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So maybe if he can get some time away from that, he can actually dedicate, 100% to the fight game, which – he's got potential, so who knows? Maybe he will.
Yeah, hopefully. He's also in his early 30s, though, too, which may mean that he's pretty, like, dedicated to his routine, likes having the job and training and all that, and likes where he lives, all that stuff, and may not be willing to uproot. So hopefully he is.
I think if the UFC keeps throwing money at him,
yeah, then he probably will. All right, then we had what was probably the fight of the night, Dustin Poirier, Jim Miller. This was a pretty good fight. Of all the decisions, this one was fun opening to close.
Yeah, thank God for these two. They saved the show. They really did. And Jacare too, but what a slugfest. And I expected this. I expected this to be fight of the night, and both guys delivered. Jim Miller has severely underrated striking. I mean, he was doing so good on the feet, I feel like. Poirier was doing great too. It was back and forth. I actually scored it for Miller.
Did you?
I did. I gave Miller the
you're a weird man.
I gave Miller the first and the third.
I thought Miller landed good shots in there, and Poirier's flurry at the end of the round was not nearly as effective as it looked. But Poirier just hit so much harder than Miller. It's hard for me not to see that in every round. Like, even if they're going strike for strike, punch for punch, Poirier is just able to get so much snap on so much power on those shots.
It was close. The deciding factor in the first round was Miller did take the back. So that kind of was like the determining factor there. But it was close. It was close. I would have been. I'm not upset with the outcome. I definitely could have scored it. But I think one of the judges gave it a 28-28 and called it a draw. That was kind of mind-boggling. I'm not sure.
They gave it a 10-9 for Miller first and third and a 10-8 for Poirier in the second, which I can get scoring the first and third for Miller. I understand that. They were both close rounds, and Poirier, broke his shin in half in round 3. It's hard not to see that as near fight-ending damage. I mean, like, if you're scoring via damage, breaking your shin is really a lot of damage. But I can't understand really giving Poirier a 10-8 round 2. Like, that was a good round for him, but he gets hit so much the way he fights that unless he's actually knocking somebody out or nearly out, he's going to be eating at least like 2/3 as many shots as he's landing.
I mean, Poirier was really coming with his cross. He was setting it up really nicely off his jab. I mean, and like you said, he really was putting some sting on it.
I was just really mostly impressed with after he broke his shin or hurt it. I'm assuming he broke it. That how well he wrestled after that and like knew how to keep in control of the fight.
Yeah, he got a takedown.
Yeah,
that was so impressive. And you're hurt when you see Dustin Poirier taking Jim Miller down. Like, you're like, damn, this dude is hurt. But man, kudos to him. And it's I feel like I kind of cursed him a bit because I said it was James Krause playing the part of Dustin Poirier. And then wasn't Krause involved with that weird ankle injury?
Yeah, he blew out.
Oh, but he was the deliverer. He gave it to who was that? Jamie Varner?
Oh yeah, he hurt his leg against Jamie Varner, and then I think he hurt it again just on the mats, like training.
Okay.
So let's see. I'm looking at who's free in the lightweight division for Poirier to fight now. Probably he's going to be out injured for a while, but when he comes back, I would not mind seeing Dustin Poirier fight Eddie Alvarez someday.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Because both of them showed they can take the fight to the ground. Both of them are beyond willing to brawl it out.
Yep.
That fight is going to take years off their careers.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see that fight.
That makes sense.
Michael Chiesa's floating around somewhere out there too with an injury that he hasn't come back from. And so's Evan Dunham.
I think even Nate Diaz, if they can talk him into it, I think that would be cool.
I doubt they can talk Nate into that fight.
He's only fighting Connor. Connor or bust.
Yep, he's making $1 million a fight, or he's not doing it, and he's not fighting Dustin Poirier as like a co-main or anything like that. Like Poirier's.
Who's Beneil Dariush about to fight? He's about to fight coming up in.
Dariush is fighting Edson Barboza.
Maybe the winner of that.
Yeah, maybe. Although the winner, I was going to say the winner that's getting close to a title shot, but with Ferguson and Khabib out there getting ready to fight, there's going to be time to kill. So the winner of Barboza, Dariush out there for Poirier would be also a lot of fun. Either way, Poirier is definitely. I'm liking having him at the top in the top 10 of the lightweight division to mix it up. He makes fights fun, win or lose.
And he looks really healthy at lightweight as opposed to featherweight.
Definitely. All right, and that brings us to the final prelim bout of the card. FS1, Belal Muhammad, Randy Brown. Randy Brown's leg checking game got exposed.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah, he Muhammad did a number on his legs. Kudos to him, and it's a very smart game plan. Look at the frame of Brown. He's kind of lanky, super long arms, super long legs, and he likes to box. So boxers tend to lower their stance a little bit. Why not go ahead and kick the leg? And that's exactly what he did. He started on the inside, switched to the outside. I mean, he really and not only that, but he showed he's got a ground game as well. He showed he can go to the wrestling. So
well, Brown's always had problems with. He can't defend takedowns out in open space, which Muhammad still exposed, and he's way too willing to fight off his back and go for submissions that aren't going to happen. But the leg checking game really just opened all that up completely for Muhammad and let him dictate the pace. So looking for a fight, suffers another setback, And it sucks because after Muhammad's couple of hard early losses, it's hard for me to be as hyped about him as a welterweight. Even like this is a good performance, but I just saw you get knocked way out by Vicente Luque, who it's like cool, but he's also just kind of a dude in the welterweight division.
Yeah, but Luque is definitely he's got venom. He's a finisher. He's a killer.
He's a finisher, but he's nowhere near the top 20.
No, but he's better than his record indicates.
He is. He's on the rise. I'm just saying it makes me hard to get hyped for Muhammad after this. You see a dude
you're right.
Somebody, and for a striker for a guy like Muhammad who likes to strike a lot, then it's hard to turn around and be like, I saw you get beat at what you're good at. So even off a win like this,
but it was good to see him go to something different.
Yeah. He's got more to prove to me than beating Randy Brown, which is a good win, but I need to see more. That brings us to Wilson Hayes, Yuta Sasaki, Ulka Sasaki, and Sasaki. I was really impressed by Sasaki in this fight, frankly. I thought Hayes would have him dead to rights, beat him anywhere and everywhere. And Sasaki put up a good fight. Looked like he'd worked a lot on his boxing, almost got a sub at the end of the fight, almost hurt Hayes, and he lost, but he was always going to lose.
I actually gave the third round to Sasaki.
I did too.
He did enough to win it. What a spirited outing, though, right? Like he made that fun. And that's exactly what the card needed at the time. It needed some fun, and he showed out, sticking his tongue out. I mean, it was just a breath of fresh air. Even though, he lost, he was supposed to lose, he was expected to lose, but he did it in style. So his stock rose tremendously.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I hope they keep him at flyweight. They've been cutting flyweights left and right lately, and I hope that they don't cut him off this loss.
Yeah, it's they can't. He brings too much. He has the star factor. Anytime someone has the star factor, they need to exploit that, even if they're not that good.
I hope.
But Hayes, man, maybe he'll get his title shot. I don't know.
Somebody has to. Somebody's got to fight DJ. Somebody during that fight tweeted out that Hayes is making a real strong case for Benavidez versus Demetrius Johnson 3. It's man,
it's true. It's true. I think
it's true, but there's a few fights I'm so not interested in that fight.
I'd rather see him fight Dominic Cruz, to be quite honest.
Yeah, me too. That is the fight to make for Demetrius Johnson, but he wants to beat Silva's record for title defenses before he does anything else. So.
Then Benavidez is an excellent candidate to face.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us down to Islam Makhachev versus Nick Lentz. Not the most thrilling win, but a really dominant win for Makhachev over a dude who's known for being tough to put away.
Yeah, I think the two big takeaways for me, at least, is Makhachev grinded out the grinder. I thought that was huge, proven who is the grinder. Now we know, you know what I mean? Not only that, but I feel like he's showing vast improvements in his stand-up. He when he first came on the scene, his striking just looked so suspect to me. And my friend won a lot of money off of Adriano Martins knocking him out. So it was nice to see him. He was working his head kicks, setting it up. I thought it was a really strong showing, and it kind of makes me wonder where he ranks. In the division, because Nick Lentz is no slouch. I mean, he was game. He tried his best. He looked a little undersized, and he was just a step behind.
Well, it's easy to forget because Lentz has never been a really famous fighter or even a very beloved fighter, and he's only 32. But Lentz has been in there since 2005, 27 and 8 with 2 draws and a no contest for his career. That's 38 fights.
Yeah, that was his 19th UFC fight.
Yeah.
So he's high mileage. He's had injuries in the past.
I think the big thing I'm seeing is that he's never had a great gas tank, and I think at lightweight, where he's carrying some extra muscle and he's kind of built like a fire plug. It just isn't. It's even less great. And he may just be like that. That may start to be a bigger factor as he faces more young guys who are looking to rise up that division.
Yeah, and I know he just had a kid, so I mean that might have been taken away from his time a bit. I mean, who knows? Who knows, man?
Yeah. All right, and that Makhachev, it's a strong win. I think he's getting closer after he's recovered from that. That Martin's lost with a couple of good wins now, and I think he's coming a lot closer to being a top 20 fighter in that division that was expected of him when he entered it. You know, wins over Chris Wade and Nick Lentz. Both those dudes have won these so far. I mean, Wade, you know, is relatively new, but he was a prospect who was on a run, and Makhachev is consistent enough and tough enough in his scrambling and wrestling to beat most of the rank and file.
Yeah, unfortunately, 2 fights removed from a brutal KO loss, he calls out Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I get, you know, people were, I thought that was really dumb. A bunch of people were like, oh, you just don't get the joke because he's Khabib's teammate and he's calling out Mayweather to like show up Conor McGregor. I'm like, dude, A, Conor McGregor has no clue who Islam Makhachev has probably never seen Makhachev fight. B, nobody in that arena has any idea that Islam Makhachev trains with Khabib other than seeing Khabib in his corner, and even then they probably wouldn't have recognized him casually. Like, that connection is going to be lost on anyone but the hardcore Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor fans, and for everybody else, it's just like, what the fuck is this dude doing?
A lot of people didn't even understand what he said. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
It's not helped by broken English either. It just came off as super goofy to me. Like, I mean, we're talking about it though. I mean, that's the good part for him is people are going to be talking about Islam Makhachev. Khabib training partner will be the headline. Khabib training partner calls out Floyd Mayweather after fight.
No, it's going to be Khabib training partner gets his boxing license in Nevada.
Yeah, so, you know, people will be talking about him because of it, but it's not, I don't know. To me, it's just kind of, it's not a wasted opportunity, but it's, I can think it's a dumb idea. I can think it's a dumb thing to say. I
just think he could have done more for his career by calling out an actual UFC fighter. That seems to be the way to go right now. It's just
maybe
fight.
Maybe, but I don't know that post-fight talk, other than getting people talking about it, does anything for your career. Like, you just need to do something that people are like, what the fuck was up with that? That's better than nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. And that brings us to Rick Glenn, Philip Nover, and this was a solid back and forth scrap. Not terribly exciting, but solid. It would have been a much decent fight. Like, in a card with like 10 finishes, this bout would have been like fine and interesting. Instead, it was just a controversially judged another decision in a long string of decisions.
Yeah, it was definitely judged weird. I think one judge had it 30-27 for Nover, and the other two had it 29-28 for Glenn. So how that happens, I don't know.
How did you score it?
I gave the first round to Nover, and then I gave the second two to Glenn.
I believe that I scored it that way as well, but
the third was close.
I actually had no problem with the 29. I wasn't that broken up about the 30-27 Nover card because Glenn started slow in every round and didn't actually win any of those rounds until like the last minute. Any of the, the second and third, he didn't, even the first, he didn't do much until like the last minute of each round. And so it's like, well, I mean, if a guy is taking half a round off you, I can understand why a judge might think he won that fight. But it was just a weird fight. Nover still fights in very like fits and starts, doesn't throw enough volume, seems to get kind of lost doing his own thing in there. And Glenn is
It's like he has ADD or something with his MMA.
Yeah.
He looked so good when he started. He started that fight looking crisp. Like he looked on point, sharp. He was
throwing his tight combos, landing with power. I was surprised. Like, wow, Nova's showing up with like a combination striking game. What is this? He could rule this fight. And then it just kind of drifted away. And
where did it go?
I don't know. Glenn, on the other hand, he's a fun action fighter, but it's really starting to see that he's not maybe going to be athletic enough to make a serious run in that division. Like,
yeah, I think the best thing he brought to the fight was his mustache, honestly.
that was a great mustache. Yeah, agreed. He was a big step slower than Nova for a lot of that fight, though.
Which is crazy because Nova's been around for a minute.
Yeah.
He's got some miles on him.
But that's why Nova's won as much as he is he's kind of a freak athlete. That's what initially brought about the whole Anderson Silva comparison thing, is that he's definitely an athletic freak, just not a tight MMA game.
But he's another one of those guys who's always been juggling a full-time job while he's been fighting also.
Yeah, well, that is become very much, it's always been the norm, but it seems weirder and weirder that it's the norm as the UFC has made a bigger and bigger push to show that they're really this like glitzy NFL level, like top tier elite super pro fighting league. Then the fact that 3/4 of your fighters all have full-time jobs becomes a much weirder fact.
Yeah.
And that brings us finally to the card opener: Ryan LaFleur, Rowan Carneiro. Not much going on in this fight. LaFleur took him pretty clear, 29-28, maybe even 30-27. Carneiro poured it on at the end off of finally got a takedown top position, but it was not much to write home about.
This fight definitely set the tone for the evening.
Yeah.
And I blame it 100%. It's this card's, or it's this fight's fault. But LaFleur did look good, though. I gotta say, from coming off such a long layoff, he didn't look rusty, and his strikings was kind of decent. I saw him landing liver kicks, and he wasn't just all grind.
His boxing has come, and striking has come a long way. His kickboxing has come a long way. It's just that he still doesn't really. He's not so comfortable throwing to be a real finisher. So he doesn't, he just doesn't throw enough volume, land well enough, consistently enough to finish. And the fact, like, he doesn't really tend to shoot that much or anything else. So you just kind of have this low output kickboxing, welterweight kickboxer whose technique isn't bad, but it's not like.
I think he surprises himself when he lands. You know what I mean? He's like, oh shit, I connected. Maybe I'll do that again, maybe. But probably not.
That set the tone for a night that ended up, like I say, with what was it? Ultimate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 decisions on a 10-fight card, and the only finish, a quick one-sided beating from Jacare Souza over Tim Boetsch for a submission, and it was not a fun card. A lot of people weren't. I did not dislike this card on paper, but I will give it to all the people who did not like it at all. It really did not deliver very much worth remembering at all.
No, this one was tough.
So, no, if you didn't pay for it, you didn't miss a lot. And on that note, before we get too much sadder talking about the lackluster end of this card and what to do with Jermaine Randamie as a champ and how long she's getting hand surgery, so she'll probably just be on the shelf until Cyborg is ready to fight. So, she's pacing herself out to be just right in Cyborg range. On that note, you can follow me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. I will be back next week, most likely with Kid Nate, for UFC Halifax, Travis Brown versus Derek Brunson in another fight card that has people going, yeah, okay. And fights, I guess. And You can find us over on bloodyelbow.com. Give this video a like, thumbs up if you are watching it over on YouTube. That helps us a ton. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM. That way you'll get all the latest BE shows, interviews, analysis, all the good stuff we do week in, week out. We will be back next week with a vivisection, Care Don't Care, If I Did It, Heavy Hands, maybe some other shows too. I have no idea as of yet. I make it all up as I go along. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Eddie, for joining me, and we will see you next time.